Hey guys, ballparkkenan here, and today we're going to be learning about missiles. First, we'll go over how to build the missile system, and then we'll go over what each component does. First, we'll place the controller block. This controls the firing of the missiles. It has connections on the front, top, left, and right. You can connect the missile components directly to the missile controller. If you want to connect more missile components, you can use the connector block. As you probably guessed, the connector block connects other missile components to the controller. With the connectors placed, we'll place the launchers. This is where the missile starts, and there are two different kinds: normal launcher and the rail launchers. The main differences being that the rail launchers have less health, are lighter, and that the ejector add-on won't connect to them. Now we'll place the gantry blocks. The gantry block houses the missile modules that make up the missile. The more gantries you add to a missile launcher, the more missile components you can have. Keep in mind, the longer the missile is, the more ammo it'll use, and it'll take longer to reload. The normal launchers use gantry blocks, and the rail launchers use the rail gantry blocks. It might seem a little confusing figuring out what gantry blocks work with the launcher. Luckily, the gantry blocks the launcher works with are below it. I've highlighted this to make it easier to see. The Identify Friend or Foe add-on stops heat-seeking, radar, and sonar-guided missiles and torps from targeting friendly units. The Staggered Fire add-on allows a time to be set in between missile launches. You can change this time by hovering over it and pressing Q. The longest delay you can set is 0.5 seconds. You can also change the firing mode of the missile controller. Select it, and then go to Missile System, and you have three options. In continuous mode, staggered firing will stop when the trigger is released. In salvo mode, all the launchers will fire on a single trigger pull. Full salvo mode is just like salvo mode, but fire will only commence once all the undamaged launchers are loaded. The only setting that really affects how the AI fires the missiles is this mode. The laser emitter is used to designate targets for the Beam Rider and Laser Target Designator guided missiles. The laser emitter has a positive lock when its beam goes from red to green. It can be set to designate for missiles attached to the same missile controller, missiles from the same ship, or any friendly laser guided missiles. The winch works with the missile harpoon component and attaches to the launcher. The missile harpoon component attaches to enemy vehicles and comes with 300 meters of cabling. You can use the cable drum if your missile needs extra cable. Once the harpoons are attached to a target, the winch uses engine power to winch them in. In the winch block settings, you can change how much engine power is used, how much you want the target to be winched in, and how long the harpoons will be attached. The Lua Transceiver allows missiles to be controlled by Lua code. The missiles you want to control with this Lua code will need the Lua receiver module. The ejector add-on is used to give the missile an extra push at launch. Up to 4 can be placed on a single launch pad. The ejector also allows you to modify the azimuth and elevation that the missile is launched at. Next, we'll go over the missile components themselves. The short-range thruster has a max burn time of 5 seconds and has a high fuel consumption. It also allows you to set its burn time. The torp propeller is the same as a variable thruster, but works underwater. You can also add a secondary torp propeller that can be placed in front of a short-range thruster or a variable thruster, making a 2-stage missile. This setup would be good on something like a vertically launched torpedo. The first stage gets it into the air. The second stage propels it to the water. This specific torp has a short-range thruster with a burn time or max duration of 0.2 seconds. This is just enough time to give it a nice push up and away from the launch pad. The secondary torpedo propeller just has the default settings, as a start delay on the propeller isn't necessary because it only uses fuel when it's in the water. The variable thruster is a thruster that allows you to modify the amount of thrust that it provides. The higher the thrust, the more fuel it'll burn. The active radar seeker targets above water vehicles based on their radar profile, meaning that pretty much every vehicle will be detected by the active radar seeker as long as it's above water. but obviously larger vehicles give off a larger radar profile, so they'll be more accurately targeted, but you really won't notice the difference. They can be countered by radar buoys, and any targeted vehicle with the passive radar will create missile warnings on missiles with this seeker. The infrared seeker targets heat sources such as engines or jets in a 120-degree field of view in front of it. The laser designator receiver targets the vessel designated by a missile laser block. You can set it to aim at lasers connected to the same missile controller as the missile, any lasers on the vehicle, or any allied lasers. The missile interceptor targets enemy missiles detected by the AI's missile warning system, which are passive radars, passive sonars, and munition warners. These work above and below the water, so you can also create anti-torpedo torpedoes. Once close enough to its target, it'll detonate, saturating the area with fragments, and can potentially destroy multiple missiles, depending on how close together the enemy missiles are and how much health they have. The single pixel IR seeker is similar to the infrared seeker, but only has a 70-degree field of view, has a lower drag, and a much higher top speed. If the target doesn't emit enough heat, it is likely the seeker will not see it at all. The Thumper Head is a durable aerodynamic head that increases the impact damage of the missile, although it doesn't provide any guidance for the missile. The Torpedo Sonar targets vehicles that are underwater, so ships and subs, in a 120-degree field of view, and it only works when underwater. Under fuel and control, the APN guidance helps guide the missile onto the target. It's useful for hitting targets that are good at dodging missiles, like the flying squirrel. It's generally better than the target prediction guidance, but doesn't work with turns larger than 60 degrees. The fins allow your missile to maneuver. The fuel tank provides fuel for your missile. The laser beam rider receiver follows the missile laser blocks laser. This is useful for engaging fast targets. The Lua receiver receives commands from a Lua box via the Lua transceiver. The one turn directs the missile towards the direction you're facing, if you fired it, or towards the local weapon controller's target. The remote guidance uses general processing power to guide the missile to the AI's target. Small missiles use 1 general processing unit, mediums use 4, and large missiles use 16 general processing units. This processing power is needed for every launched missile. For example, if you fire a medium missile and while it's still in flight the launcher reloads and fires another, you'll need 8 general processing units. If the AI doesn't have enough general processing units, the accuracy of the missiles will be greatly reduced. The target prediction guidance aims the missile towards the predicted intercept point. The turning thruster costs fuel and is less precise than fins, but doesn't lose efficiency in space and turns faster than fins. Moving on to warheads. The body is a durable component that increases impact damage. The EMP warhead causes EMP damage. The explosive warhead causes explosive damage. And the fragmentation warhead detonates and launches fragments in a cone that you can adjust. Now you'll notice the fragment average damage goes up and down as I adjust the cone angle. The wider the cone, the more damage the fragments will do. Moving on to utility. The ballast tank allows a float depth to be set from 0 meters to 500 meters or a buoyancy of -5 to +5. So if I want a torpedo to float at 5 meters below the water, I just set it to 5 meters. The camera allows the IR seeker to select a target, such as the center of mass of a target, the shields, or random block or hot objects, like engines, shields, etc. The magnet is attracted to the center of mass of nearby vehicles. You can adjust when it activates and the magnet's range, but be careful with this because these can be attracted to your vehicles. The proximity fuse detonates the missile on anything other than projectiles when it detects them within its set range. The radar buoy sends detections back to the ship's AI that fired it, works above the water and floating on top of it. This component is going to need the missile radar buoy holder connected to the AI in order to work, and you'll need one of these for each missile that has a radar buoy on it. So if you have one radar buoy holder, you can only launch one radar buoy. You can also use it as a decoy to distract active radar missiles. To do this, simply place the missile radar buoy holder anywhere on the vehicle and don't connect it to the AI. This is done so that the radar buoy holder doesn't use up general processing units, and so that bad targeting data isn't sent back to the ship's AI. To get the decoys to deploy, you'll need to place an automated control block near your decoy's missile controller block. Then set it to the following settings. Under Condition, select Enemy Missiles/Torpedoes. The max value is how close your missiles can get before the decoys are deployed. You can also set it to deploy when it detects either torps or missiles, or just one of them. Next, under Target, select Weapon Systems, and under Actions, select Fire. Then you'll want to set the effect range. This sets how far away this command block will affect blocks it can give commands to. If this isn't set, every time there's a missile within the set distance, all of your craft's weapons will fire. You'll want to set this to how far away your missile controller is. The regulator extends the missile's life by 50% of the base life. So if the missile has a base lifetime of 10, each regulator will add 5 seconds to the lifetime of the missile. You can see your missile's lifetime in seconds here. The safety fuse stops the missile from exploding on the vehicle it was launched from. This is useful in bomb bays. The sonar buoy detects vehicles in the water and sends those detections back to the AI that fired it, if the AI has sonar buoy holders attached to it. You can also use this to distract enemy torpedoes by not placing the sonar buoy holders on the AI and instead just placing it somewhere on your ship. Just like with the radar buoy, you don't want them sending back bad data and using up general processing units. Also, just like the radar buoy holders, the max number you can launch is based on how many sonar buoy holders you have. I'd recommend adding ballast tanks and setting them to float at 15 or 20 meters below the water. This keeps them in the water so that the enemy torps can detect them. The sticky flare can stick to vehicles to make them a more prominent target for IR seeker missiles. These can also be used as flares to distract enemy IR missiles. You can set when it ignites and when it goes out. If you're using it to distract enemy missiles, I'd recommend leaving it with the default settings. It's also good to combine them with radar buoys to distract IR seeker and active radar seeker missiles, without having to create one set of missiles with radar buoys and one set with flares. I hope this video gave you a better idea of how missiles work and from the depths. If you have any questions, you can throw those in the comment section below and I'll answer them the best I can. Thanks for watching.